Well. Welcome to New York Sports Wicker Media. I am Watu K99. Want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you like what you're seeing, give a like. Please subscribe to the channel. Share it with a friend. I always appreciate it. And feel free to comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, what we're going to talk about right now, with the trade deadline coming up in Major League Baseball, the New York Mets are rumored to be making a couple of trades. There's a couple of players that are being linked to the Mets. Now, they've already acquired a left-handed hitter in Daniel Vogelbach, who is becoming the new big sexy around the Mets, replacing my old pal Bartolo Colon, my fellow Bartolo, as I like to call him for certain reasons. But his first name is my last name. So hey, what can I say? I always call him my fellow Bartolo, and I always will. But so Vogelbach is pretty much a one-dimensional hitter. He can mash righties pretty well, but if he's ever facing a lefty, something's not quite going right. So the Mets are still probably, according to most people that you would talk to, looking for a bat, looking for an arm out of the bullpen. I've talked a little bit in the past about Wilson Contreras with the Cubs, but I really think there's going to be a bidding war for his services. So now the name that's really starting to emerge is Trey Mancini from the Baltimore Orioles. But it's not just Trey Mancini that I want to talk about. See, I really think the Mets need the bullpen arm just as much as they need the bat. As much as the offense has been slumping, it really comes in the point in September and October when your bullpen is what you're really relying on to get through some of those late games, those tight, close games. And the Mets just don't have the reliable arms that you would want outside of maybe Edwin Diaz. And again, he's never done it in the playoffs. I got a lot of confidence in Diaz, but he has to prove it in that spot. But I mean, how much at this point can you really trust Drew Smith? How much can you really trust Adam Ottavino? We could go down the list. Seth Lugo, Joely Rodriguez, and on we go. So to me, if you're going to go after Trey Mancini, and we're going to talk about Mancini in a moment, but really the centerpiece to me in this trade would be Jorge Lopez, who's currently the Orioles closer. Now let's talk about Jorge Lopez. Being that I live in Virginia, I do get access to the Orioles games. I certainly don't watch every game, but if the Mets aren't playing or if nothing else is on, I'll flip the Orioles on for a little bit. Plus, I love Camden Yards, so here's what I would say. Lopez is basically a failed starter, 29 years old. He really only moved to the bullpen in 2021, last September. He had 5 scoreless outings. This year, he has emerged as the Orioles closer. He has a 1.59 ERA, a 0.93 whip. If your whip, walks and hits divided by innings pitched, is below 1, you're a pretty good pitcher. You're a pretty good pitcher. So what makes him so good? Well, he throws a 99-mile-an-hour sinker, for starters, 99 miles an hour. And he gets over a 60% ground ball rate on them. So with the Mets' very good infield defense between McNeil, Guillorme, Lindor, this could play right into their hands. He also throws a curveball. He throws a slider, which is really his 4th pitch. But he also has a changeup that he throws about 84 to 85 miles an hour. And from what I hear, that changeup looks pretty similar to the sinker coming out of his hand. So if think about it, you got the 99-mile-an-hour sinker, right? And a changeup at about 85 miles an hour, and that is a 15-mile-an-hour difference, basically. And the batter can't pick up one from the other. That's a devastating arsenal. Also, doesn't really walk guys. That whip kind of demonstrates that. The other thing, he's 29 years old. He's been a journeyman really up until about a year ago. But he's under contract through 2024. So if you get Jorge Lopez, you're going to get this year plus 2 more years of control. So that is something that does appeal to me. Because remember, Edwin Diaz is a free agent after this season. I definitely want the Mets to bring him back. But with other players coming up also, Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, most of the starting rotation. Jacob deGrom, Carlos Carrasco, Chris Bassett, Taijuan Walker, all these guys are free agents. You're not going to bring everybody back. You have to choose somebody. So Lopez also acts as potential insurance if they do let Diaz go. Now, as far as Trey Mancini goes, it's been kind of a tougher season on him. He's 30 years old now. At this point, he's a first baseman / DH. He can play outfield if absolutely necessary, but he doesn't really have much range at this point. He's 30 years old. So he'd really be the DH. I don't know if he really works as a platoon with Vogelbach. Mancini is a left-handed hitter. He is better against righties. Let's compare the splits from this season. Against lefties, he's hitting 259. Against righties, he's hitting 272. Against lefties, he's hit 2 home runs. Against righties, he's hit 7 home runs this year. Against lefties, 9 RBIs. Against righties, 28 RBIs. Let's compare the OPS, on base plus slugging percentage. Against lefties, just 698, not too good. Against righties, it's 778. Now, he's had over twice as many at-bats as a right-handed hitter, but even when you look at the averages, there's a little bit of a difference there. Now, the new fence in Camden Yards has really hurt him. The Orioles moved back their fences this year, and no baseball player has been hurt as much as Trey Mancini by that. Looking at the StatCast, the statistics and everything with projected home runs that they have nowadays, it looks as though they have projected that he has lost 8 home runs this year because of those new fences alone. So he has 9 home runs this year. It would have been 17 if the fences had been as they were up until this past season. I like that Mancini is durable. He's played 147 games in all of his big league seasons. He did miss 2020 due to his cancer diagnosis, which he has since overcome. Thank goodness for that. Mancini will be a free agent after 2022. It is a mutual option, I believe. So, in this case, you may not have to give up as much for him as you would for, say, a Josh Bell, for maybe, and not for as much as Wilson Contreras. And don't get me started on what you'd have to give up to get a Juan Soto. The other thing that I do like is that Buck Showalter managed him before. He managed him from 2016 to 2018. Buck knows him, so you have that familiarity as well. So as I'm looking at this, I really am not that interested in Trey Mancini unless Jorge Lopez comes with. I prefer a bat that can really hit lefties because the Mets are a lot more vulnerable to left-handed pitching than they are right-handed pitching. I know over the last month or so, it feels like they've been vulnerable to every kind of pitching, right? So, but in this case, I think that Mancini is almost like a better version of Vogelbach. And as of this season, they've been pretty comparable players, as a matter of fact. Now, what would it take to get these 2 players? Well, the Orioles, I can tell you, have a very stacked farm system. Their AAA team is only about a half hour away from me in Norfolk. I've had a chance to watch a couple of the games. Some of these names: Grayson Rodriguez, starting pitcher; Gunnar Henderson, middle infielder, although he could play third base also; D.L. Hall, left-handed pitcher; Jordan Westburg, shortstop. These are guys I've seen in Norfolk. They're going to be up with Baltimore this time next year. So what are they really looking for? From what I'm gathering, the Orioles really need some help in the outfield. They don't have a lot of depth there. So you could give them a Khalil Lee and Nick Plummer, an outfielder who could step right in right now and play for them. I don't want to give up Alex Ramirez. He is becoming one of my favorite Mets prospects, even though he is a few years away. Also, you're going to have to give up some pitching. I think it's going to take a starting pitcher, a ready starting pitcher, just to give a little bit of insurance. It might take David Peterson or Tyler McGill in order to get this done. And then I think one other pitching prospect who is out of the top 10, think a Junior Santos or a Jose Buto, both of whom are in basically between rank 12 and like 20 in the Mets farm system right now. So that's pretty much what I think it would take to land Mancini and Lopez. So that is my thought. Let me know if you have any thoughts on that. What would you give up? Are these players that we shouldn't be targeting at all? Who do you want to see the Mets get at the deadline that could be realistic? But more than that, what would you be willing to give up? Because we're not going to give up like Dom Smith and Thomas Nido and get Juan Soto. It doesn't quite work that way. But I am curious to get your thoughts. So also the Jets camp is opening today. It's an exciting new day. I'll definitely be putting up some content about the Jets. And, hey, check back. There's going to be new content coming up all the time. Thank you very much for watching. And you know where you're going to get it from. The Wicker Chair.